This is an election year, and the campaign for the May 2013 polls is expected to heat up in a few weeks. This election is different from the midterm elections of 2007. President Aquino's performance in office for the past 2.5 years has produced high trust ratings, which Mrs. Arroyo failed to accomplish in the past. Political observers say there is no genuine opposition, since even those in the United National Alliance were in support of key legislations proposed by the president. An area of concern for the electorate is the growing list of political dynasties all over the country. And joining us tonight is Ms. Malou Tiquia, one of the country's top political analysts and strategists. Good evening, ma'am, and Happy New Year.
Good evening, Robert, and Happy New Year to all your televiewers.
Different is this midterm elections. President Aquino has the support of Vice President Jejomar Binay. No conflict has been recorded between them, and the president has very high popularity ratings. How do you see this shaping up, especially in the Senate race?
I think, Robert, what would be important for 2013 would be the messaging of both parties, since both would apparently be coming from the same pie. Contrasting would be very, very critical in terms of messaging. The president and the vice president have very, very high popularity ratings, and the trust level are also very high. So I think they would probably not be a factor, but people would be looking for a contrasting message that will define UNA or LP coalition.
Ma'am, there is a solid coalition in the House in support of the president and from local government officials seeking re-election. Will this work to the advantage of those running under the administration ticket?
I think there are several candidates who are unopposed. That would definitely be in favor of the administration, the incumbents. It's unfortunate, though, that it would appear, when we take of Metro Manila, there are very, very strong areas where the Vice President actually has an edge in Metro Manila. Although there are candidates who are unopposed in Metro Manila, still you would see the different style of politics of the LP coalition and UNA.
Ma'am, looking at the Senate race, who has the edge? The incumbents, the newcomers, and what about those making a comeback like former Senate President Ernesto Maceda?
I think the reality, let me probably answer you in the last question you used, and then the first question you asked. Okay. The retirees or Balik Senado would probably have a hard time, in the sense that you will have to take into consideration the demographics and the psychographics of voters. There are Mr. Expose, Manong Maceda, for my generation, but the new voters coming in, the fresh blood, would probably not know that Senator Maceda that well. When it comes to the incumbents or the re-electionists, I think it would be safe to say there's strong 6 re-electionists. How they run their campaign, how they contrast their messaging across the 6 re-electionists would be crucial. How the ads are played out, the frequency of the ads. There is such a thing as nananawa rin, because we've seen ads going on pre-campaign. So if you do not have a unique message, and the message remains the same for the next 90 days, voters would probably tune out. I would predict there'd be several competitive alternatives from among the 33 names. It will now be really what for me is crucial is the messaging. People are looking for an opposition. Opposition will be in the alternative candidates. Then they'd probably have a mixed slate, not a pure 12-0 for one slate or the other. I think it would be a mixture. There'd be some re-electionists who would probably be lucky. Based on the latest polls, you have definitely 6 strong senatorial balls there. But there is one that is jumping pretty high, and that is former Representative Cynthia Villar, whom we saw jumping by 19.5%. That's big. But again, the challenge there would be, in the next 90 days, what would be the messaging? Would the messaging still remain? Then if so, then manunuya yung tao. People will just tune out.
So you think it's still anybody's game at this point in time?
Yes, Robert. Probably we can see some trends coming out very near the Holy Week, because it's one thing to plan and another thing to execute your plans. So what is crucial is probably the incumbents, the re-electionists have a built-in advantage, but that doesn't mean re-electionists are sure winners.
Now I'm looking at the polls, you've seen it in the past elections. Usually, does it really change when election starts, the polls that we're seeing right now?
Oh, there are outliers there in the field. Their history would tell us there were re-electionists who were not re-elected in a midterm, I think, or even in a presidential. I have to check that. But there were re-electionists who were not re-elected.
Now I'm looking at some those who are running for the Senate. What about Congressman J.V. Ejercito, son of former President Estrada, Congressman Juan Ponce Jack Enrile, son of Senate President Enrile, and Congressman Sonny Angara, son of Senator Edgardo Angara? How do you see their future in the Senate panning out? Do you think they'll make it?
Well, Robert, when it comes to name recall, if elections were all about name recall, they would win. But elections are not just about name recall. Look at their track record, their performance, whether they are really, the rightful inheritors, quote unquote, of the brand. So I guess it's still the last 6 or the last 7 is still really a toss-up in the 90-day campaign period.
Now, looking at the upcoming elections, how should a candidate, especially those running for the Senate, package their campaigns? Advertising will be very expensive, but will spending more guarantee you victory? 30 seconds is not enough to present their track records.
No, I'm a believer of both air war and ground war. I don't think we have enough historical experience to say that not those candidates with all the money doesn't necessarily win. If you don't have the ground war, psychographics of voters say Filipino voters are still very personal. So they have to reckon with those things. It may not be probably good for a lazy candidate. For someone who really wants to win, you will have to pump the flesh and be seen locally.
But I'm looking at past elections, everything really boils down to perception, and media is the key to this. How much weight will this have on the chances of a candidate? Do you think the Filipino voters are more educated now in choosing their candidates?
I think they're looking at platforms. I was surprised, we just had a recent focus group discussion. They're looking at track record and performance. I think the media will aid them in terms of one, getting aware of those who are running. Second, checking from the ads. They will start checking available data in terms of messaging and platforms and performance. Other than that, I think they would want, a typical Filipino voter would want a mix. We've gone past the block voting style. I think since there is no clear opposition, my sense is really a mixed ticket there.
And finally, ma'am, your fearless forecast. How do you see the Senate slate?
I think it's too early. The re-electionists have the advantage, but I wouldn't discount the alternatives.
Again, it's still anybody's game.
Yes.
Okay. On that note, thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us tonight. That was Miss Malou Tiquia of Publicus, one of the country's top political analysts and strategists. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Robert.